My name is James Michael Widdy Welsh, or number 36. I am of the Wongabong people of the Whalwa Nation. We talk the Nimpa language, and we are the protectors of the black duck. And before the questions come again, I will say this, that you make me and my brothers here so proud to be able to do this after so many years of not being able to voice a pain that was carrying and hurting us from inside out. I thank you for this, true from my heart.
Thank you, Uncle. Uncle, how important is it for people to learn about your stories and the stolen generation?
I use my own children for an example when I talk or answer this question, please. And my children have grown up in a way that they could not and are unable to function in society and in the local community or any community for that reason. The reason being is that I never knew how to be a parent when those people took me away from my mother and my grandmothers and uncles. Them at that time I didn't know where my father was, and when we were removed from our parents' family, we were no longer to have family love. We was to have a love that was a traumatised love of being told what to do, flogged, starved, abused sexually, and every other way that these people could see. So my life became a painful journey and a fearful journey. I was frightened to make a decision. I didn't know whether I was allowed to ask for things. So I was frightened to ask for things. I was frightened to let my children go to certain places. I would not let anybody babysit them. I wouldn't let them go into the hospitals. When my wife or woman come out without my child out of the hospitals, I would go in and I'd tell her to go back and get them. She'd go in, bless her, and try and come back out sometimes and say they won't give him or her to me. So I'd go in and I'd tell them, if you don't give me my child, I'm going to cause a problem. So that was my world. So it's a trauma that I didn't know about until it had got to the stage where, I say this, when I got these and I turned 18, nobody was going to tell me what to do again because of what was happening and what had happened to me. I couldn't kill that pain of inside of me, so I began to drink. I turned to alcohol. It would make me happy for a while, but then somewhere along the line, or how many drinks, whatever it was, I would black out and I describe myself when I'm talking about it, and sometimes even my own children, I describe myself as a little Tasmanian devil cartoon, yeah, around like that there. I didn't want anybody to come near me or them, so that's what I did. I'm only a small man, but I used to get in a lot of fights because what happened to us when we started to talk to the people in our own community, you'd look into their eyes and their eyes would change, and you'd think, what did I say? What did I say wrong? I never said nothing wrong. And later on, when I'd run into those people a day, a week, a month later, and I'd be happy mood of having a few beers, I'd tell them, I'd say, you didn't like me, I'd call them some nasty names, but and then we'd get into so that was the world. And then the jails, the judges, the laws, the police, the courthouses, they took control of my life. So a journey of 40 to 50 years of drinking. I worked hard, good worker, like all the brothers that come out of that place. We could work. I fought hard. The problem was we didn't fit no longer into our communities because weren't brainwashed. I don't call it that. I call it reprogramming. They reprogrammed our brains when we were little. So now that I'm growing up, I couldn't understand the pain that was in here and this up here. So inside this body, there was a fight going on that I understand now. I haven't had a drink for 8 years. I haven't had a smoke for 8 years. It's lovely to see your beautiful faces and things, and I haven't been locked up for 8 years either. Yeah, it's.
And yeah, I mean, that's all about that generational trauma and the
is.
impacts of they're still very real. It's still very much happening for our kids and their kids. Why was the apology so important?
That's a double-sworded blade, that one. And when the day come that he was making the apology, my sister, who at the time we were taking was 5, and my brother, who was 4, they come around and they asked me if I was going to go down with them to it, and I said no. I said, it don't mean nothing to me. But they said to me, but you're our oldest, so we need you to come with us. So I went. I'm glad I went, because when I was down there I met a lot of other people who had this same pain that I was carrying, and not only that, for that moment when he said sorry, it lifted up my hope that there would be a change in the lives, and hope that our children could be able to be free of what was coming up, was the alcohol and drugs and things like that, and the neglect that we as people of the first people of this land get from a lot of people. So it didn't stop what they were doing. What hurts us today, and why it's important that we do this where we talk, is that in 2017, I'll use it for an example. In 2017, there was 17,000 children that were taken from their parents. The 7 years earlier, he said he was sorry. So if you're sorry, it means you don't do this anymore. But that's where that went. So at this moment, this is the best chance that we have as survivors from that place that we went down, to carry this story forward, to be able to make changes that's more positive for our children and grandchildren.
That's right. We have an obligation as a country to tell these stories, and what better than from you fellas, from our uncles, the people that have been through the situation. And how do we move forward? What can we do to support you and keep this conversation going?
What you're doing right now is one of the biggest pluses about what it is. Come up to us 10 years ago with these cameras, and we would have said something quite different to you. Yeah, but it's a positive way, and technology even today, we know that. I don't like picking on anybody, but when there is incidents where people get involved with authority, they have a tendency of abusing us more than they should. So with technology and photography and the mobile phones, which are a good thing because that we can record what's happening on that spot to verify what we were saying or that they were doing wrong. But there's also a flip side of that too, because there's so many young people that get cyberbullying over those things and they don't know, because the world is just sort of get along. It doesn't show the love that used to be, that we as a people always ever had, as we like to love and share. Today's world is to own and control. So it's a cycle that's very difficult to mould together.
That's right. It is very hard, you know, and what are some of the visions that you see that we need in the future?
Thank you for that question. It'll bring me in mind to 2017 on the 11th of October when we were guests down at the Government House or some house they call in Macquarie Street, and they give us a piece of paper that stated that it was the Bill of Rights of Language. 2017 on the 11th of October, they give me a piece of paper that told me that I now have the right to hone and speak my language. People think that this was all the time. That's not so. Only 2.5 years ago that this actually happened. That's a change that's coming towards. That's a change that as we go back and we learn our language, it's going to be hard for me, but I break down and cry when I watch and I listen to some of the young people talking this language. Aunt over here sits down and she talks the Gamilaroi language, and I get a little bit jealous because I can't talk my Nimpa language, but I know that that's going to be beautiful. It's a thing forward, and if the government learns to, I'm going to say this now, is not to break family structure by taking children away, but to help those families, men to be a parent, to be able to look after their children, give them the resources, all of us the resources to be able to do that. By doing that, they will mould and mend communities and make communities a more happier place for people to live. If they don't do that, keep destroying families, you destroy communities.
The cycle continues, doesn't it?
All the time, yeah.
So we must. And just lastly, what does reconciliation mean to you?
Oh, that's a dangerous word.
It is, isn't it? It's very.
It's one of those words that our people will say, how come we reconcile and where we never reconciled in the first place? And the truth telling about what happened on this land is the biggest and most important thing that we need to get right. That when he sailed up and down this coast for 3 days and seen all those fires, and then writ that it was Turinalius, and I'd say this, but did he think that the kangaroos and the emus made those fires? Yeah, well, so conciliation would be a better way to try and handle that. But as a reconciliation is, what we do? How do we reconcile something that we never had?
That's right. Thank you, Uncle. It was
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you.